What's up, everybody? I've been doing a couple of videos that are more analytical, me behind the camera, using a script. So I want to do this one to make it more fun, talk about something more personal, get myself out of my shell. So let's do that. Today, we're going to be talking about my guys. These are my dudes.
Big dog, let's go to work.
For the 2024 NFL season, these are the people that, if they perform well, will bring me happiness and joy, and potentially some financial freedom. I've got 6 guys, 6/7 guys, you'll see what I mean by that later. And these are the people I am backing in 2024. These are the people that, again, will bring me happiness if they succeed this year. So the first one, it's the Houston Texans in general. I am a Houston Texans fan. I am buying in on them having a massive season. I have them projected to get about 13 wins. Their ceiling is very, very high, and I'm going to reach all the way to that. I've seen some people harp on their schedule. There's plenty of reasons to think why this team might not come together, and maybe some other team wins the AFC South. But there's definitely a lot of hype on this team. It's more hype I felt on a team of mine in any other season in any other league ever. So I'm pretty excited for that. But I'm specifically pointing out Tank Dell here. Tank I have on various amounts of fantasy teams. My main one took him in like the 6th round. It's obviously been a big topic of discussion which one of these Texans wide receivers is going to come out and be the number one. Do we need a number one? Who do you take in fantasy? They're all going in the top 30 wide receivers. Tank being at the very bottom of that. I've staked a claim that I believe Tank Dell will emerge as the wide receiver number one after this season. When he was really getting into his groove, starting with this Buccaneers game after he caught that game-winning touchdown.
Trout to the end zone, touchdown!
Tank Dell, 6 seconds left. CJ Stroud's I'm here moment caught by Tank. These two dudes have such a connection. I think he's like our Tyreek. Stephon will play more slot. Nico's going to be a big guy going down the sideline, making those big one-on-one catches. But Tank's the guy who speeds down the field. And he sneaky had a lot of touchdowns last year. And these 4 games after the Carolina loss, which was kind of brutal, 6 catches, 8, 5, a touchdown in every game, 2 in that Tampa Bay game. He was really coming into his own. Then it was that Denver game where he got hurt. They, for some reason, have him trying to run block for Pierce. He's on the left of Nico here, on the right of the O-line. Somehow Tank gets shoved into, and Tank being, what is he? Tank being 5'10", 165. Tank is my size, skinnier. I should never be in a situation like this. I would be lucky to have my leg. I have no idea why we were trying to have Tank run block on the 1-yard line, especially in that spot going into the middle
Sportsbook,
of everything.
Tank Dell. There's going to be some questions, I'm sure, about the formation that the Texans were running. 2 wide receivers that close together, Dell and Nico Collins.
So Tank gets hurt. He misses out on, the last month of the season. I'm really believing in Tank. I think his ceiling is through the roof. I think, unfortunately, we have seen what Nico's ceiling is. I think it's what we saw last year. Which, if that was repeated for the next 3 years, would be unbelievable, obviously. And we've obviously seen what Stephon Diggs' ceiling is. He'll be playing a different role, I think, more of a clutch time slot receiver. So I'm all in on Tank Dell. If Tank Dell has a monster season, he's number one receiver on this team, we'll be doing good. All right, so my next guy is Baron Browning of the Denver Broncos. Now, I'm going to explain who Baron Browning is first and then explain why in a second. So Baron Browning plays a linebacker for the Denver Broncos, coming from the Ohio State University.
Welcome to the horseshoe!
Round 3 pick. Baron Browning started his career as a middle linebacker for the Broncos. The key is that they moved him in 2022 to a better position for him, one that he's more naturally built for. They put him to outside linebacker, so now he's pass rushing more. Last year, really good on run defense on PFF, really good in the pass rush. He had 4.5 sacks last year in just 10 games. So he's someone that's settled into this outside linebacker position, coming into his 4th year, contract year. So Baron Browning is set up for a good year. And why is that important? Baron Browning is the first athlete on Vestable.
Vestable is one of the first federally regulated investment platforms that allows individuals to invest in the careers of their favorite athletes, and not just investing like using the word, but like actually investing in their career at a certain point in their career.
Baron Browning is the first athlete on Vestable. Why does that matter to me? Because I gave Vestable some of my money. I gave them $100 to invest in Baron Browning. This is the homepage for the Vestable app. You can see my account value right here, $100.07. So I put in $100, and I guess I've made 7 more cents off that, so we're already looking good. Yeah, so here's money sign BDBR. As you see, he's raised $553,780. You can have a maximum more of whatever that is, up to $1 million. There's 446,000, right? 820 people have invested. So some people are investing a lot more than the $100 minimum I am. I have 10 shares of Browning, of BDBR, of Butter. To my understanding, Baron Browning gets that $1 million. Yeah, Baron Browning takes that $1 million, and that's... So I just spent basically the last 20 minutes refreshing myself on how exactly this all works. But basically, as far as I can understand, the money that's being invested in Baron Browning, he gets to have up front. He can do whatever he wants with it. And if Baron Browning does well, then based on what they're saying, then my shares will be worth more money. So some of it's obviously murky. I don't really know much about IPOs or stocks or anything like that. So this is a little new to me in that sense. However, what I do know is that if Baron Browning balls out this year, then good things will happen. And if he doesn't, then I'll probably lose all of my $100. So that's the gamble I'm taking. We're betting on Baron Browning. He's one of my guys. I took off my blue light glasses. Those aren't even real glasses. I just wear them all the time. But I realized that the glare was kind of bad. My next guy is Ryan Grubb of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this is twofold. One, I am a Washington alumni. Ryan Grubb and his offensive schemes brought me a lot of happiness last college football season. The second part is that I do believe in the Seattle Seahawks this year. If Geno Smith plays as well as he's been playing, I think the ascension of Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf being in his prime, if Tyler Lockett can stay healthy and be around for one more year, that's a 3-headed punch at wide receiver. Kenneth Walker's coming into his prime. They have Charbonnet depth. I think this offense has a lot to go for it. And then also Mike McDonald is just going to throw together a great defense. Their offensive line is obviously kind of an issue. There's a lot of talent on this team. Bringing in Connor Williams as a center helps the offensive line out a lot. So they can just gel. And on top of that, if Ryan Grubb can scheme away some of those offensive line problems with some play action, with some motion, just get things going, I really think this team could be good. So I think I'm going to be betting on them to do well. They're going to be my NFC team. I think them or the Rams will win the NFC West. Sorry, JR and the Niners fans. So last year, it was all in on the UW football team. Now I'll spread some of the love out to Seattle. So go Hawks. All right, so next up, Chase Brown is my fourth guy. So the hype on Chase Brown for me started from the Coach Speak Index. This is a cool Twitter account. If any of you guys aren't following it, it just basically clips deep dives of coaches talking about players. And actually rates them based on their credibility. Here's where's one? Here's Coach Speak Index for Zach Taylor. His depth chart, somewhat trustworthy. Injuries, he's not that reliable, but he's pretty reliable on usage and workload, and that's key here because he talked about Chase Brown a lot during the offseason.
Now that Joe Mixon's gone, Chase Brown stepping in.
Yep.
How important what kind of emphasis do you put on his role going forward?
Well, a big emphasis. I think he's earned that. I think he's worked the right way. He's what we hoped we were drafting.
So there's been a lot of talk from this Coach Speak, from Zach Taylor, from the Bengals front office about Chase Brown. Remember, they brought in Zach Moss, who had that big season last year in the absence of Jonathan Taylor. But it seemed maybe a little fluky. The Colts run game is very potent. He could have been capitalizing on that. And they really like Chase Brown from a pass catching perspective too. He doesn't have a ranking, 63.9. Last year as a halfback, just a little bit less rated than Zach Moss. Receiving grade 81.1, so really good receiving grade. So if you're in PPR like I am in most of these leagues, I have bought in very heavily on Chase Brown. I've picked him up in just about every situation I can. During our fantasy draft on Monday, everyone was like, Chase Brown? How far do you have to look for that guy? It's like, dude, he's ranked above Zach Moss. You're not listening.
Browning dumps it off underneath. He's got Chase Brown. He's the speedster. He's got daylight inside the 30. One man to beat. Oh, he makes a move into the end zone.
I will not be surprised at all if by the end of the season Chase Brown has this backfield locked up. So I'm all in on Chase Brown. All right, now my next guys, plural, technically, but it's Jaylen W. of the Miami Dolphins. Now, that means two people. Start with Waddle.
Wait a minute. Is he doing like an emperor penguin waddle? as his celebration? Is that what that is?
I'm all in on him in fantasy. He was very slept on in ESPN rankings. I'm all in on him in fantasy purposes. I'm also not a big Tyreek fan. I think he's kind of a shitty person. So I'm down for Jaylen Waddle to kind of grab the reins, have his chance for a year. I was looking at his stats. Like, he missed 3 games last year. I feel like he has a label of maybe injury prone. I have been seeing he's questionable on ESPN right now. He does an undisclosed injury maybe. He's just been like not practicing. He was in a red jersey today, so I'm a little worried about that. But I'm all in on Jaylen W number 1. So the other Jaylen W I'm all in on is Jaylen Wright. Now, I've had this explained to me on Fantasy TikTok. Shout out Joel Smythe. This Jaylen W is set to be the 3rd string running back for the Dolphins this year. We saw how a 3rd string running back for the Dolphins exploded onto the scene last year, right? The Dolphins traded up to select Jaylen Wright out of Tennessee. And he was a good running back at Tennessee. The fact that they traded up to get him when they already have Mostert, they already have Achane, they know how important their running game is, and they know the fragility of Achane based on his size and stature, and the fragility of Mostert going into his age 31 season. Raheem Mostert is 32 years old right now, so he had an amazing season last year because of all the touchdowns. He could fall off a cliff. So that's why Jaylen Wright sitting here at such a low value made a ton of sense to me to draft him in like every league I could. If Mostert's efficiency falls off a cliff, if Achane isn't what he was last year, Jaylen Wright's going to get plenty of opportunities and good ones at that. I'm all in on Jaylen W from the Miami Dolphins. And then my last one is quick. When I was thinking about maybe Depoy as an award to bet on, and the first person that came to mind when I thought, who's due to win a Defensive Player of the Year, who's underrated, people aren't really thinking about, Maxx Crosby was the first guy that came to my mind. The Raiders defense does seem set up to me to be pretty good this year. Antonio Pierce had it cooking last year. I think their offense will hold them back too much to be any sort of real threat. However, if that's not the case and they are an above 500 team, I think this defense is so good and Maxx Crosby will be such a spearhead of this defense that I think he can win Depoy even if the Raiders don't make the playoffs. If they do make the playoffs, I think someone on this team's got to get some light. Maybe Antonio Pierce, Coach of the Year, if they can pull that off. When I went and looked at check the odds, this is on Big Bowler Bet. Great site. He's plus 700, so he's tied for 4th best odds, just barely behind Micah, Myles Garrett, and TJ Watt. So him and Micah are the only 2 guys in these top 5 echelon, right? There's a big drop off after these. Him and Micah are the only 2 that don't have one. Micah's obviously the favorite. Everyone's just waiting until he gets one. I don't think that Dallas D is going to be as good as it was last year. So if they're looking for a new fresh face for Depoy, the face of what should be a good defense, I think Maxx Crosby is a pretty good candidate this year. And so I think I'm bought in. So I'm going to bet on Maxx Crosby to win Depoy. So you have it. Those are my guys for 2024. Let me know what your guys are this year in the comments. Sound off in the comments below, as they say. Give me a like, give me a sub. Let me know if you hate my guys. Send me your fantasy teams, jettosports@gmail.com. Just interact with me. I want to talk ball. I'll be live streaming some records later. But yeah, let me know your guys, because I got mine. It's going to be a good season. Let's get it.